After watching this detailed guide, you will feel more confident in setting up your own dirted tank and possibly avoid some serious mistakes I have done in the past. So, let's go through the 10 essential steps. If you think that this video is getting too much at some point, feel free to pause or use the checkpoints you can find in the description below. Also, do not forget to subscribe. Your likes and subscriptions motivate me sharing knowledge, and it will be easier for you to return for more videos. Whether it's the hardscape or the essentials such as dirt and gravel, you better make a list and be prepared so that you have everything covered. There is nothing more frustrating than having to redo your tank or dealing with a mud bath. This list includes soil, gravel, water conditioner, with some metal binding properties such as prime, some rocks or driftwood for the hardscape, super glue, a filter, which is optional in some cases, a thermostat for most cases, a thermometer, light, a socket timer, many plants, a hose or a gravel vacuum so you can easily perform water changes, a bucket, a plastic sieve or something similar that will help you adding water without messing up the substrate, an ammonia, nitrates, and nitrate testing kit, and a pair of tongs, so planting is easy. Things you will definitely not need include a CO2 system, fertilizers, and livestock, at least for a couple of weeks. Depending on where you live and how easily you can get lost in translation, you need a soil which is not very nutritious. To be more specific, any organic soil will do. Simple soils are the best. You do not want any added fertilizers or a high content on organic matter such as compost or peat moss because a very acidic substrate will increase metals in the water column. A high content in metals in the water can cause metal poisoning to both plants and livestock, and an increase in algae blooms. When picking your soil, you can remove twigs and other organic matter using your hands or a sieve. If you don't mind having a yellow tinge in the water, you can just skip this step. For example, my Blue Dream tank has a mixture of 3/4 of soil without the twigs and 1/4 of vermicompost, whereas my sand tank has only soil but without removing the twigs. Keep in mind that you will need at least 2 to 3 centimeters of soil depth. You can calculate the volume of the soil you need by multiplying your tank's length by its width, and then multiply that number with number 3. You might need a little more because wet soil is not as fluffy as when it is sold in bags. For example, if I have a 80 centimeter length tank with a 50 centimeter width, I would need 80 by 50 by 3, which is around 12 liters. Now, depending on how densely the soil is packed, you may need 12 to 20 liters, roughly speaking. The substrate cap should be an inert material. You can use gravel or sand depending on your likings. However, keep in mind, if you use coarse gravel with a diameter larger than 4 millimeters, you might face problems keeping mud out of the water column. Also, try using coarse gravel instead of polished. Coarse gravel has a higher surface to volume ratio, meaning more bacteria can colonize when compared to polished or smooth gravel. The cap should be around 1.5 to 2 centimeters deep. If you want to calculate how much cap you need, do the same as you did with the soil, but multiply it with number 2. So for my 80 by 50 tank, I would need 80 times 50 times 2, which is around 8 liters. Now, this is volume, whereas most gravel or sand is sold in pounds or kilos. If you want to convert this weight, you have to multiply it by 1.7 if it's gravel, and by 2 if it is sand. So I decided I needed sand for this hypothetical tank. I would need 80 by 50 by 2 by 2, which is roughly 16 kilos or 35 pounds. Now I suggest you always get some extra soil and gravel because it's really frustrating realizing you're out of material in the middle of the setup. Also, do not forget to rinse the gravel or sand. This will save you from some frustrating water changes. No matter what type of water you may use, I suggest you add some metal binding conditioner such as Prime. This will prevent the toxic metal spikes which can cause severe damage to your plants. I do not suggest using only reverse osmosis water, especially if you're new to this. Reverse osmosis water is free of minerals which can be detrimental to hard water plants. Even if you plan on keeping species that require a very low carbonate hardness, you will need to mineralize your water if you will be using only reverse osmosis water. Now, when adding water, you will need to use some sieve or plastic container with holes in the bottom as to not disturb the substrate. Fill up your tank until to the desired level so you can add your plants. Be sure to add dechlorinated water so that you do not kill off the beneficial bacteria living in the soil. Now, this is where you can't really go wrong. Just be gentle so you do not disturb the substrate. Otherwise, you will end up with a mud bath. Put tall plants in the bank of the aquarium and low plants in the front zones. That's pretty much it. Also, you can use super glue if you want to tie plants or stick some hardscape pieces together. It doesn't have to be special for aquarium use. Any super glue such as Loctite will do. Super glue reacts with water and cures instantly. Keep in mind that it will turn white, so be careful when you put the glue because those stains might be visible. Also try getting the gel form. It's easier to work with and much less messy. If you're planning on adding a filter, I think it's time for you to add it. Along with the filter, add the thermostat and the thermometer. A hang-back filter will do the job. You do not need a lot of surface agitation or a lot of bubbles. The plants will be providing a lot of oxygen, and increased air and water mixing may reduce the CO2 levels of your tank. Keep in mind that some thermostats are not calibrated, so make sure you hit the right temperature. For my tanks, I have found the sweet spots to be around 26 Celsius degrees. Now, light is as important as water. It's how plants get their energy, and your whole ecosystem is based on plants. I cannot stress more on the importance of light. Now, most aquarium starting kits come with a light which is not bright enough to sustain plant life. You will need around 30 to 50 lumens per liter, so if you have a 20-gallon tank that is 75 liters, it means that you will need around 2,000 to 4,000 lumens, roughly speaking. If your tank is placed near a window, you might want to add some duct tape around the substrate so that you will limit iron reduction and lower the risk for algae outbreaks. Keep in mind your aquarium will need around 12 hours of light. I also prefer a 3 to 4 hour break during midday. This replenishes CO2, and it is an old school way of keeping algae at bay. This is where the socket timer comes in handy. Dirty tanks are usually low maintenance and most of the times they run on their own. However, during the first few days, keep in mind that the water column is a mess. Metals, ammonia, nitrates, and pH fluctuations are some of the things that might kill anything alive in the tank. This is why I do not advise adding livestock or sensitive plants during day 1. I have seen that my plants do better when I add them during day 7. Also keep in mind that performing water changes every other day for the first 10 to 14 days will help achieve a nice balance faster. Also, do not rush in testing for ammonia. It does not matter at this point because soil has ammonia anyway. And if I were to add anything alive, most possibly high metal concentration would kill it. This is where I want to talk about my little experiment. I remember that I always rushed and added a couple of snails in all of my setups. Interestingly enough, I had a lot of losses. Malaysian trumpet snails and assassin snails were the most susceptible, whereas ramshorn snails survived the first chaotic days. Still, I did see some losses regarding the ramshorn snails. Also, keep in mind, you need to provide light once you have planted your tank, not beforehand. If you have a filter running, be sure it's always on. Filter and thermostat should be connected in a different socket so they remain constantly on, whereas light should be connected to the timer. I once did this mistake and my poor shrimps had to live a cold night around 18 Celsius degrees. Before adding the fish, you can perform some water changes. Ammonia and nitrates should be undetectable, whereas nitrates should be kept around 10 to 20 parts per million. This usually takes 3 to 8 weeks depending on the substrate, the water changes, and the number of plants added in the aquarium. Keep in mind that plants prefer ammonia over nitrates, so it's normal to see a rapid decline in ammonia, whereas nitrates will not be depleted as fast as ammonia. If ammonia is very high, it may damage your plants. I cannot really tell you which plants are ammonia tolerant and which are sensitive, but the literature suggests that there is a very broad spectrum among plant species. Some plants can be stunted at concentrations over 1 part per million, whereas others can tolerate concentrations up to 26 parts per million. So if you want to micromanage the first few weeks, frequent water changes will keep ammonia under 1 to 2 parts per million. For the first few months, some algal growth is normal. Some stunted plant growth is expected. And finally, bacterial blooms are completely normal. Just keep doing your water changes when ammonia exceeds the limits, and when ammonia and nitrates are zero, your tank is safe to house fish and other invertebrates. Thank you so much for bearing with me and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did while making it. Hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also, feel free to express your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Bye for now.